All right, hello. Welcome to 70 or 70 Muppets. It's the fan podcast. You guys know, it's Howard Tubman's week, guys. I mean, Howard Tubman, Bill Beretta performs him. Debuts 1996. And I guess someone had to talk about Howard Tubman. And, we all drew straws at the Tough Pig's office. And Shane drew the shortest straw, which meant he got the Screaming Goat podcast. And I drew the second shortest straw, which means here I am recording about Howard Tubman. I'm Becca. I should have said that. I try to be really positive about the Muppets. I try to be happy. I frequently say that Howard Tubman is my least favorite Muppet. And it's going to be interesting to talk about him today. I'd love to get into why I dislike him, but I felt like if I was going to have to do this one, I was going to need help. So I got not just one, but two great guests from the Muppeturgy podcast, David Levy and Adam Grosswirth.
Thanks for having us, and a question mark?
Yeah, so to be here.
Talking about Howard Tubman, guys, your favorite Muppet.
Uh-huh.
He sure is a Muppet that I am vaguely aware of.
I mean, he is at least one person's favorite Muppet, because there is a supercut on YouTube of all of his appearances to date. It is quite short, but I do want to thank that person for making it, because it was instructive, and also I am thankful that it was quite short.
Yeah, she notes that it's her favorite Muppet, and to that I want to say, like,
why?
Have you ever seen Fozzie Bear?
Does the name Gonzo ring a bell?
Let me introduce you to Miss Piggy, if you like pigs. But, Howard Tubman, like you guys said, really hasn't been in much. It feels like last week with the Screaming Goat, we were talking about how little the Screaming Goat has been in. Howard Tubman is an interesting case because Howard Tubman didn't appear in the United States, really, until It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie in 2002, because all of his scenes on Muppets Tonight were UK spots.
So I have some thoughts about that. Howard Tubman's introductory role was as part of a recurring bit originally called The Tubmans of Portsmouth, and then later Boar's Head Revisited. And in them, they're introduced as like the continuing story of America's oldest and fattest family. And it is very easy to focus in on fattest, because they are just fat joke after fat joke after fat joke. That is literally the only thing about these sketches. But I actually think America is the key to understanding what they were trying to do there. Mm-hmm. Which does not excuse it. But I don't think that this is just straight up fat phobia. I think this is anti-American fat phobia for a British audience, to be like, haha, those Americans, they're so fat and lazy and stupid and fat, fatty, fat. And the sketches are like really laden with other like American coding. First of all, the fact that they have like very American accents. But also, like, in the first few, like, the foods are all, like, very American foods. It's Yankee pot roast and colonial rum cake. And, I think that they're
Somebody
really...
calls him a Yankee Doodle Dandy at one point.
Well, and that's part of it, too. And I think, actually, even for an American audience, this is the part that I was like, I sort of maybe see what they're doing here, but, oh, wait, now I'm offended. But, like, he is an American aristocrat, right? So it is about, right, he is so wealthy that he doesn't have anything else to do with his time but eat and like loaf around, right? So he is lazy. He is constantly eating. He is a pig, so like, okay, I sort of see how you got there. But it is this sort of general like and like his long suffering butler, who is sort of an interesting, I thought, more interesting character and a more interesting puppet. I thought, that it's like, oh, would you look at this like incredibly rich loser, and then add to that, and he's stupid, right? And then if you sort of put the British gloss on that too, of like, oh, Americans don't know how to do aristocracy, we know how to do aristocracy. Like it I sort of get it, and I just wish that there's a way at that joke that isn't just, oh, I'm so fat, if I eat one more piece of cake, I'll get literally stuck in this chair. His introduction is him stuck in a chair that he cannot get out of because somehow while he was eating, he got wider and couldn't get out.
But again, thinking about like what frame you're looking at this through, Howard is not unhappy. He loves being fat. He loves eating.
Yeah.
He doesn't care that he's stuck in a chair. It's the butler who wants to get him out of the chair. He'd be perfectly happy to stay in that chair as long as he can reach more food. And there is something nice about that. Like, in that, unlike, say, Miss Piggy, who if you call her fat, she will clock you. But Howard's like, yeah, I'm fat. It's the best thing ever. Hand me a hot dog, even though I'm a pig, even though it might be made from me.
David, are you telling me that this is a sketch about like radical body positivity?
No,
Yeah.
because
I'm not
the
convinced.
Because the sketch is framed in such a way that it looks down on him for thinking that. But I think that that's a difference between the character and the use of the character. So I think there's something about the character that's redeemable, even though he is being put in this frame that is really nasty by the writers. And I think that it's interesting too, his voice, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, is he doing a Dom DeLuise impression? My original thought was, oh, is he doing a James Coco impression? And then I was like, no, it's a
famous
Dom
diet
DeLuise
book author James Coco.
Right.
That's true.
But both of them were like very associated with, sort of being happy to both joke about being fat, but also with loving food. They were both, James Coco wrote cookbooks. Dom DeLuise, because he looked like Paul Prudhomme, also had a whole like food thing going on, which I think also sort of is the key to what happens next.
And we'll get to what happens next. Yeah.
So I just to be positive about that, and truly, I am grateful to the person who put the supercut on YouTube. And if you're listening, also sorry that we're saying bad things about your favorite Muppet. But
she probably tuned in so excited, like Tough
I'm
Pigs
sorry.
has a podcast
I'm
about
sorry.
my favorite Muppet.
But really, thank you for this, because it was really instructive. Because I mean, as you said, right, the Muppets Tonight spots were UK spots, so we had not seen them before. I have a very strong memory of Howard Tubman that I sort of like assumed I had seen him before. It turns out it was his most recent and final appearance, or nearly the most recent significant appearance. I've now forgotten the order, but that's okay. And
Yeah, you're right.
The Muppets Now one. We'll get to it shortly. I remembered that, and I remembered it like sort of viscerally despising it, which we'll get to. But what I found interesting, like, there are all these stories about characters who do or don't work right away, and performers getting attached to particular puppets for whatever reason. I mean, obviously Miss Piggy, I think the most famous example of that, and how much she changes from season 1 to season 2 of The Muppet Show and has multiple performers. And I am not, to be clear, comparing Howard Tubman favorably to Miss Piggy.
Because he's better.
Sure. And I also just don't like the puppet. I just think it's ugly, but it's also like ugly on purpose. That's part of the point. And like very famously, right, Elmo was sort of kicking around, and then Kevin Clash picked him up one day, and it became Elmo, and right. So like that can happen. And I assume, I don't know this, but it seems to me that Bill Beretta saw this puppet, thought it was cool, was attached to it, and like tried to do something, and then tried to do something a little bit different, and tried to do something a little bit different. And getting to watch that evolution in a 17-minute supercut, whether I personally like that evolution or not, was just like, as a person who is interested in the Muppets and thinks Muppet performers are, quite good at their jobs, I just found it interesting to get to see that in this like concentrated 17-minute box.
I do just want to touch on real quick. So like we said, this 17-minute box really puts things in perspective. But, it really is like the first 10 minutes of this 17-minute box, maybe more, is just these Muppets Tonight sketches, which are, again, just Howard likes food. to the detriment of himself and everyone around him. I do want to mention, though, because you mentioned his butler, let's just quickly give a shout out to Carter, who, first of all, you were like, what a great puppet. Well, you guys already know and love that puppet, because that puppet is one of the members of Jerry and the Atrix from The Muppet Show. If you watch The Muppets Take Manhattan, a great movie, she is the one who sings Days Go Passing Into Years to Bobby Benson's baby band in that part of She'll Make Him Happy.
So are we saying that Carter is canonically trans?
Well, I will point out, I'm just gonna say this. Muppets Haunted Mansion, there is a puppet. That puppet is used as a female puppet again, and is referred to, it's just taking me a second to get the name.
Miss Cartier.
Miss Cartier. So, I don't know. I think Carter might be a gender fluid icon.
Yeah, maybe a drag queen. Maybe Jerry and the Atrix was a drag performance all along.
Yeah, who knows? But what I do know, and is the weirdest fact about Carter that a lot of people might know, is Carter does appear in Muppets from Space in a pretty prominent cameo in the Brick House number and in the credits. And I remember being a kid in 1999 and obsessing over the film Muppets from Space and legitimately being confused and concerned who that Muppet was, because I had watched every episode of Muppets Tonight religiously as a child, but I did not recognize this Muppet, and that's because he was also only in UK spots. Howard Tubman, not in Muppets from Space, not as important as Carter.
Justice for Carter.
So, you mentioned, a great segue here, you mentioned that Howard's personality begins to change, because maybe personality, but like Howard's role, whatever you want to say.
His characterization.
That's a better word for it, thank you. Begins to change because the second half of Howard's career takes us into
his Mimi era.
You know I can't say that.
His Fraggle era, did you say?
Yeah, I don't know if we can say Fraggle on this show. But it takes us into, it's a very Merry Muppet Christmas movie where Howard becomes the Muppet Theater's choreographer. Now, part of why I wanted you guys on the show was because you guys are my friends, and I was going to need to...
Not anymore.
I was going to need to steal my... It's fine, I'm done. Your show's ending. I've been on your show twice. I don't need you guys to in my life anymore.
We have reached the end of the Muppet Show. That does not mean our show is ending.
Subscribe now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, well then I guess I do need to maintain my friendship with you. So I can't say that I thought of you two, not only because you're my friends, but because you guys also work in the theater.
Who told?
Now that's a euphemism if ever I've heard one.
You know, it is both a euphemism
and true.
I'm speaking truly, but I'm also saying, something rubbed me wrong about Latter-day Howard, because Latter-day Howard felt like he was playing around with a lot of gay stereotypes that made me uncomfortable. And I'm queer. I'm a trans woman. I'm a trans lesbian. But obviously those stereotypes are very different than gay man and gay theater man stereotypes. What's going on with Howard Tubman as a choreographer in Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, where we see him choreographing a can-can number, and then in The World Where Kermit Was Never Born as the Electric Mayhem's River Dance choreographer?
In which it must be noted Animal is wearing Birkenstocks. I just need to point that out. So Animal apparently is also a lesbian.
I just want to point out that Howard Tubman has transformed because he got his brow done and is looking fabulous.
Oh, you are absolutely right. He did get his brow done.
I think... I want to say this carefully. There are there's a large handful of modern day Muppet characters where I feel like the accent came first and the character came second, perhaps, and then some of them evolved into wonderful, beautiful things, and some of them are Howard Tubman. And there's a way in which Howard's sort of aristocrat voice is a stereotypical gay voice, so I don't think it was a super long walk to that reuse of the character, which again I think somebody was probably attached to and trying to make work. I mean, Uncle Deadly is a better example of a character who is pretty explicitly presented as gay in recent stuff. And when you go back and look at the Muppet Show, you're like, oh yeah, I totally see how that was kind of there all along, even if it wasn't.
But also, and you guys can maybe speak to this better than I can, but like, I personally, and again, I know that it's different, it's different for me, but like, I don't find Uncle Deadly as offensive as Howard.
Oh no, I love Uncle Deadly. I don't find Uncle Deadly offensive at all. He's one of my favorites of all time. But I just mean like I see where the line was of like, this was no one's intention, but it is a short walk to get there.
So first of all, hashtag not all choreographers. This is my point to remind you that Dom DeLuise is not a choreographer, also not gay, which was a surprise to a lot of our listeners when we discussed that on our episode about his episode of The Muppet Show. Here's the thing about Howard, and I think that there are a couple of things that we need to sort of divide. There's an effeminacy to the way that he's presented, which I think probably the first time I encountered him when I was much, much younger, I may have sort of been taken aback by because of maybe some of my own internalized homophobia. There's nothing wrong with effeminate gay men. There is something wrong with a 70-year-old franchise that doesn't have any explicit out characters except for those that are effeminate. I would say that maybe that has changed since.
I wouldn't even say that Howard, like you said, except for those who are effeminate, there just is no explicitly out gay.
Right, it's all
character.
subtext. It's all
because
like
Howard
we make jokes
is
about
not
Scooter, but
yeah, and Howard is not expressed.
I was thinking about Bunsen and Beaker, but yeah,
yeah, but Howard is not expressly gay.
Right.
It's very obvious to queer people that that's what they're going for. It feels like, but like. Yeah, it certainly feels different when he's one of the only ones in this sphere.
But then there's the other part of it, which is that he's kind of handsy. And,
right.
And that's the part that's like, again, even more uncomfortable given the lack. I mean, listen, no one should touch other people without consent. And it's even worse when this is the only one, right? So in this bit, he like slaps Kermit on the tush, right? And then later on, he kind of puts his hands on RuPaul. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, but he does grab Kermit's rear and say, "Oh, nice tushy, Kermit." In It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, which is again uncomfortable. It kind of gets into some of those like predatory stereotypes and not just of gay people, but also you sometimes see that with like not necessarily just choreography, but like when you work with other people's physical bodies.
Right, I was gonna say it's workplace harassment on top of everything.
Yeah,
right, and also to have that coming from a character who we don't really know, like even with the Muppets Tonight context, it's not like, oh, everyone remembers beloved Howard Tubman. Like, if it had been Uncle Deadly, if it had been Scooter, if it had been, if it had been Link, like who was never really coded as gay, but like that could be funny, right? Like also especially because like that's the whole shtick of that movie is the world has changed because Kermit's not in it. Like, what if Link were the choreographer? Link is kind of effete, right? Like he's what we would have called a metrosexual in the late 90s. Like,
but let's be honest, he's more like a singer who moves.
Sure, but like there are other characters who we know who could have been in that role who we would sort of accept certain behavior from, and also like the joke would actually be funnier because this is how the world has changed. Now Link is the choreographer and is grabbing Kermit. Me. It's still workplace harassment, but the joke exists, and as opposed to who is this guy of the Howard of it all.
And I do need to stress though,
the world hasn't changed at the point where he's grabbing Kermit.
Yes, that is...
Oh, I just watched the clip out of context. It's been a while.
When he's working with the Electric Mayhem and telling Kermit about how Doc Hopper has a giant fast food empire now, That is the world where Kermit was never born.
Right.
When he's choreographing the can dancers and telling them how much they suck and telling them how bad I can say suck. What am I
That's
doing?
our world.
Right. I conflated the two scenes from the it was just in clip form.
That's our world. But it is interesting that you're saying, because not only did a majority, again, more people live in the United States than Britain. If we assume I don't know if that speaks to viewers of Muppets Tonight, but It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie was made for NBC Universal to air on the NBC channel. And we did not know who Howard Tubman was. And not only that, even if you had seen them, the Muppets Tonight stuff never involved Howard interacting with characters other than Carter and a couple of whatnots and Scooter's uncle, who's a hypnotist. But it's we don't know what Kermit and Howard's relationship is, because you don't see that on Muppets Tonight. You don't see him, going like, "Hey Clifford, was my act good?" I don't know how he fits into things.
Right. And
he fits into a chair, I know that.
I do think, and I'm assuming, but I have to assume this is Bill Beretta wanting another shot at Howard and thinking, oh, what if he's the choreographer at the Muppet Theater? Let's try that. Which ultimately didn't go anywhere because there wasn't another thing that took place in the Muppet Theater for a decade. But I could see trying that, but it does seem like a weird moment in which to do it in that particular movie, given the whole plot of that movie, where the world splits into, or the timeline splits into.
And then we really don't see Howard for a long time. Until
his best appearance.
I was going to say 2015's The Muppets. He comes back as a talent agent for the weirdest Muppets, and mostly some weird Muppets from The Muppet Show, Jerry and the Atrix, Phenomena,
Bobby
Benson.
The Muppephone, Marvin Suggs.
Oh, Marvin Suggs, thank you. That was the other one. I don't know, I didn't hate that.
I didn't either. And this is a place where he's gay coded, right? He's a talent agent. He's a type who I think a lot of us recognize if we work in entertainment, but there was nothing offensive about it. There was nothing,
Right, it was a little bit lower key than the choreographer.
Yeah, 100%.
He's not harassing anybody, and he's really just a vehicle for these sort of nostalgia jokes. And I like that. I thought that worked well. And I think having a beloved Muppet Show character, or even Muppet Show puppet who takes on multiple roles, would have been weird in that instance, right? I think having somebody who we don't know super well is actually helpful there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because that was one of, honestly, the problems that Muppets 15 sometimes had, was it would kind of put these characters who should know each other in roles where it didn't seem like they knew each other. I can't think of a specific example right now because I haven't rewatched it. The Muppet Newsman didn't work with them in that. This was again, Howard kind of feels separate, and it's kind of like, oh well, maybe he didn't appear on the Muppet Show because he was just the talent agent, so he was helping book the acts even then. Who knows? There's more to work with there, and more that didn't upset me.
I think had I remembered that appearance before watching Muppet Now, I might have had a little more context for what happens in Muppet Now.
Which, let's get to Muppets Now. David, I love that you don't remember the title of the show, Muppets Now.
What do you mean? I said Muppets Now.
No, you said Muppet every time.
Every time you say Muppet Now.
Oh, I meant Muppets Now.
We got it.
It's okay.
We use context clues, but it is funny that you're like, there was only one Muppet in every episode.
Muppet Now.
They were very short episodes, but not that short.
They were. This, I don't know, the choreography is worse than this, but...
I actually don't think it is.
Okay, so you think this is worse. Adam,
I agree. This is
can you guys tell the folks at home what happens in Muppet Now?
Also, time passes, right? We talk about this in Muppeturgy all the time when we're trying to contextualize things that are you would not do or get away with on television in 2025, that you did do and get away with on television in 1978. And we're not saying, oh, it's okay because it was the past, but we're trying to like, put context on these things because it was the past. So I think, Very Merry Muppet Christmas was what, 98, 99?
2002.
Okay, still. Almost 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Muppets Now was
5 years ago.
3 years ago. God, 5. What is time? Right.
Because remember, it was the
COVID.
thing we watched during the pandemic.
Right. Scooters on Zoom.
He sure is on Zoom.
Yeah. With the messiest desktop. He would never. Anyway. So but in 2020, what happens is Kermit is interviewing RuPaul, and Howard interrupts the interview, and like, okay, Muppets being obnoxious, Kermit not being able to keep order, that's a thing. But he is a RuPaul super fan, and so never has he appeared gayer, and obviously straight people also like RuPaul, and RuPaul is not an unproblematic figure in the real world. But, I don't think anything has ever been gayer on The Muppet Show ever than, this gay-coded Muppet, like, harassing the interview because he's a RuPaul super fan. And
because he's someone who we don't recognize.
Right. I did not remember the previous.
Right. It feels like they just created the worst possible gay stereotype to come in and interrupt this interview.
Right. And so to have that happen, I was like, I feel bad for RuPaul for like that. This is the bit that they've given him to do. And then
RuPaul clearly doesn't know Howard Tubman because RuPaul.
Right.
But at one point, RuPaul even goes, "Oh, so you're named Howard?"
Yeah, like because RuPaul should be in a sketch with Miss Piggy. Like, what are we doing here?
And these were semi-improvised, right? Like that was part of the shtick. Well, that was
kind of you guys just watched just the Howard Tubman part. What keeps happening is different Muppets keep interrupting Kermit with different things like. Fozzie's like, oh, I bet RuPaul would want to hear my act. Again, none of them are interrupting to provide RuPaul trivia the way that Howard is. And the other Muppets, I believe, are Fozzie and Link. So they're...
So you know who they are. It's not like,
Uncle Deadly,
who's this guy?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And again, like, sort of Deadly makes sense, if nothing else, because he's a fashion guy.
Correct.
Right? Like, in this iteration, right?
Yeah.
He's Piggy's dresser, and, like... Yeah, I remember it being so off-putting to me. And I liked a decent amount of Muppets Now, and this just took me out of it completely. Don't make that face. I know that this is a Disney adjacent podcast. You will cut this part. I hated most of Muppets Now, but
okay,
I didn't
great.
Want to say that. Actually, I loved all the Uncle Deadly stuff, and I loved the pigsty. So like I can legitimately say that.
Didn't love the pigsty. That's interesting.
I did, but cut all of that.
I don't know. It is weird, and it feels very intentional that the only Muppets Now episode he's in is the one with RuPaul.
Exactly.
Like, my memory, was it the first
It
episode?
is the first episode of...
Because that also just, it set a bad, I don't know how to say it, it kicked off the series on a sour note for me.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair. And I have a lot of things that I would love to say about Muppets Now, but we're going to just move into the last thing, which is Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Ha! Not so easy, is it?
I don't know. He's better in Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Well, he's a chorus member.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything to do, really.
No, he does an at the dance joke with Beverly.
Yeah, which I enjoyed.
Which was typical. He I guess he caters. Yeah.
Yeah, he does something with... He serves some food at the party.
Yeah, and he's like, hi, tonight's dinner will be a cream mock tortoise with a side of rigor mortis, which is fine. I guess that's taking it all the way back to fat jokes. He's
well, it's not. Just because he's serving food is not making a fat joke.
You can argue... The reason I'm saying that is because we had 12 straight minutes of him talking about food. If it was
no one who watched Muppets Haunted Mansion remembers the UK spots from Muppets Tonight. I can say
I
that.
Certainly didn't. I barely remember Muppets Haunted Mansion, and we did an episode on it, and I liked it.
It's so conflicting because, like Adam said, it is interesting to see Howard go from one thing to another. It's just unfortunate that I don't like either of those things.
Here's what I'll say for Howard Tubman, is that of all of the current generation of Muppet performers, Bill Barretta seems to be the most committed to developing new characters and trying to make them stick. And he's been extremely successful with Pepe. He's been pretty successful with Bobo. He's been moderately successful with Johnny Fiamma. He's been trying with Howard. And I can't think of anyone else from the current generation of Muppet performers who has put that much time and effort into trying to make brand new characters stick around and last. And, you know, we only have 17 minutes of Howard. That's not his fault. That's the fault of the amount of material the Muppets have been able to produce in the last 25 years. You know, if they were still doing 26 episodes a year of television shows, there might have been time for Howard to grow and change and develop into a final form that worked and was sustainable and was beloved. I think there is still a chance for Howard to get there. Like, I think what we saw in the Muppets ABC series shows that there is a happy medium where Howard can be a little bit effete and gay and a little effeminate, but not leading into stereotypes and not, you know, only about food or being handsy or whatever. But he needs to be in a situation where he can, you know, develop a character, not just characteristics. And I think, you know, to his credit, I think Bill is willing to do that if there's ever the opportunity.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like, what would it look like if he were paired with Piggy and Link, or Deadly, or Scooter, or right? Like, there's interesting combinations of sort of performers and characters where I could see something cool happening. We just haven't gotten to see it.
That's a really positive point. And so I'd like to end on a positive note as well and say, at least Howard Tubman isn't Miss Poogie.
Although, maybe he is.
Oh, I'm not ready for this. Guys, where can people find you? Where can people find you if you wish to be found? You want to plug anything?
Well, so our podcast, as we've said several times, is Muppeturgy. That's Muppet, U-R-G-Y. We are just wrapping up the Muppet Show and recapping every episode, but we do have plans to continue. And also, if you haven't been listening so far, there's 5 seasons that you can occupy your time with. So we are at Muppeturgy.com and Muppeturgy on social media and wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want to follow us more directly, go listen to Muppeturgy and find us that way.
It's a lot of this.
Yeah, it is. I love Muppeturgy. I'm so glad you guys could suffer with me through Howard Tubman and maybe make me realize that what if Howard Tubman is the best Muppet?
The lady has potential. We'll leave it at that.
Good night, everybody.
70 Years, 70 Muppets is a Muppet fan podcast presented by toughpigs.com. Hosted by a whole myriad of people and edited by them as well. Produced by Jared Fairclough. The Muppet 70 logo used with permission by the Muppet Studio with thanks to Danny Iglesias, Frank Reif Snyder and Lee Slaughter. Don't forget to follow toughpigs.com on all social media platforms. You can support us by heading to patreon.com/toughpigs or buying a t-shirt at tpublic.com/toughpigs.